Let's go through the LPAC decision-making process for STAR and TELPAS PowerPoint. These are the topics we'll be looking at. First one, changes for 2018-19, and we'll go and see all of these topics in order. So what's new for this year, this school year, is that the assessment decisions that were made in the fall, which would affect December EOCs, those decisions will carry over to the spring and also to the summer. For STAR grades 3 through 8, there were no December decisions, so you'll still have your spring LPAC, which will be valid for assessments in the spring and also for grades 5 and 8 for summer retests. This slide just talks about the LPAC's role and collaboration with others, with other committees. So you can see there's just different opportunities for the LPAC to collaborate and the responsibilities. The last point talks about collaborating or coordinating with test coordinators so that those decisions can be made in a timely manner to make testing arrangements. There are two decision guides. In the past there was the STAR decision making guide, which we still have, but now TEA has added the TELPAS decision making guide because there are certain accommodations that students might need for TELPAS if they qualify due to an IEP or a 504 decision. So in the decision-making guides, there are documents for each possible designated support. In each of those documents, you'll see the following. First of all, what the applicable assessment programs are, test participation decisions, designated supports, documentation of decisions, and additional considerations for the applicable assessment programs. This document, you'll see there actually are two different documents. One is for STAR on the left and the other is for TELPAS. And the first thing you'll see is the participation criteria and which version of STAR a student will take. On the right, you'll see the same thing, but for TELPAS, whether a student will participate in regular TELPAS, TELPAS alternate, or if they fall under a no academic response or medical exception. On the accommodations webpage, you'll see three different types of either accessibility features or designated supports. Accessibility features are things or accommodations available to all students, and those do not require an LPAC decision. There are, for instance, one of the things that is an accessibility feature is the use of bilingual dictionaries for math, science, and social studies. However, most of the things you'll be seeing are under designated supports, which do require the local approval by a committee such as the LPAC, or sometimes collaborating with other committees such as the ARD or 504 committee or RTI. This would include such things such as oral administration, content and language supports, extra time, and several others. Then there are a few designated supports which would require TEA approval, and the district would have to request that in advance. As it says at the bottom, there are some designated supports in which the LPAC is the sole authority for making those recommendations for ELs. But if there are other committees involved, as I mentioned earlier, then the LPAC must collaborate with those committees. The Designated support decisions should be made on an individual student basis, not as a blanket decision for all students in a grade, but each student needs to have decisions made based on their needs. And particularly, the LPAC should be looking at needs for second language acquisition support, and also whether they use these supports routinely, independently, and effectively during classroom instruction and classroom testing. Whenever possible, the LPAC should also coordinate with subject area teachers. If the subject teacher can be present at the LPAC meeting, that would even be better. But we definitely need to have subject area teachers' input when making these assessment decisions. And also, those decisions should be made as close as possible to the assessment time to reflect the most current needs that the student has. The designated support document looks like this. What you're seeing here is for grades 3 through 5. This is for STAR. In grades 3 through 5, they have the option of taking the test in English or Spanish. Also, they may take it on paper or online. And then you see to the right of that the different designated supports available. Note that at least of these decisions or supports is only available online, which would be the content and language supports. Most are available if the student takes paper or online test. And then there is also a place for the subject teacher to sign on this designated support form. As I mentioned earlier, the STAR EOC assessments decisions can be carried over from fall to spring and summer administrations. This would affect, for instance, if a student is taking English EOC in December, which that would typically be the retest. If they do not pass in the fall and they're going to retake it in the spring, that decision from the fall could carry over to the spring. However, if there are going to be any changes in the accommodations the student will receive between the fall and the spring, then the LPAC should meet again to make document those changes. There are 3 designated supports that could prevent an LEP student from exiting or being reclassified at the end of the year as non-LEP. This affects only the reading or writing assessments in grades 3 through 8. That would be STAR reading or STAR writing, or English 1 or English 2. And that would be oral administration, content and language supports, or extra time. So this, if the LPAC recommends any one of these designated supports, this would prevent an LEP student or an E-English learner from being reclassified as non-English learner or as English proficient. However, if the student is being served in special education or being served by some other committee such as RTI or 504, if the decision is made by a different committee based on not based on language but based on other needs, then the LPAC can document that the designated support was assigned by the other committee. So for instance, on the designated support form, the LPAC could write, will receive oral administration due to ARD committee decision, and that would not prevent the student from exiting because it was due to either an ARD decision or 504 if there's another committee that is making that decision. For students whose parents have denied services for their child, they are not allowed, or let's say the LPAC may not recommend designated supports if the student's parents have denied services, or either bilingual or ESL. So you can see the LPAC really cannot recommend any designated supports, nor can they allow the student to test in Spanish. In grade 9, the English 1 special provision would not apply. They're not allowed to have that. And even if they're an unschooled asylee or refugee, the provisions for that as well, the exemption that's available in grades 3 through 8 no longer does not apply either. So it's very important. One of the reasons it's a good idea for our English learners to be served in bilingual or ESL. For TELPAS, notice that all English learners are assessed regardless of whether parents have denied bilingual or ESL services. So they must participate in TELPAS if they are still coded as LEP. These are some different forms then you'll see. So on the left you'll see the forms that are used for STAR for the LPAC to use. And on the right hand side you'll see the 2 forms that may be used for TELPAS documentation. I'll also mention that these forms are available in DMAC in the LPAC application. So if your district is using the DMAC LPAC software, these are all available in that program. Or you can print them off from the TDA website as well. The student history worksheet is just a way to keep track of students' records for multiple years. And so there's just an easy way to see everything on one page. Also lets you know, if you can see if a student has been enrolled for 60 consecutive school days in a school year. So in other words, whether that's going to count as a year or not. And then there's the form available at this website. Let's talk about ELs receiving special education services. So for students who receive special education services, they have the option of taking different versions of STAR depending on what the LPAC decides, or the ARD committee. So they may take STAR or STAR Spanish if the LPAC decides that's the most appropriate, or if they qualify for STAR Alternate 2, again that would be really an ARD decision. Then what version of TELPAS? There are exemptions available for students with significant cognitive disabilities for regular STAR, or if a student is going to participate in STAR Alternate 2, then they would also qualify for TELPAS Alternate. So STAR Alternate 2 students would be taking or participating in the TELPAS Alternate as well. So the ARD and the LPAC will need to collaborate on these decisions for students who receive special education services. Next, we'll look at STAR Spanish, and we'll see that STAR and STAR Spanish have the exact same blueprint. The difference is the language accessibility, obviously, but they're the same types of test items, the same TEKs are covered, so it's basically the only difference is that one is in Spanish, the other's in English. Again, be sure to make individual decisions for each student whether STAR Spanish would be the most appropriate assessment. And also now, this year, the designated supports are also available for STAR Spanish. There are different factors to consider when deciding if a student should take STAR Spanish. So here's a list of things to keep in mind. Just decide which assessment is best for the student, whether they're going to take English or Spanish. And they may take STAR Spanish for one subject or English for different, so they don't have to take all the tests in the same language. And next we'll see STAR special provisions and exemptions in our next section.